Hello, everybody. I have a feeling that we may be slightly tardy, slightly late. Now, we don't want tardiness to become a habit, but, sometimes things happen. Apologies. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for staying in the chat and being ready to go. This is the Devon Witherspoon episode, so we're going to have his tape. We're going to talk about Seahawks stuff as well. There isn't that much Seahawks stuff. There's OTAs. There's some interesting-ish quotes, but they're not posting the proper. They're not posting the playbook. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Where's the
What's up
playbook?
with that?
What's up with that?
The coaches haven't looked directly into the camera and told us exactly what fronts they're going to run
Just
and win.
Unacceptable. We deserve better. But anyway, there can be pausing, enhancing. Shocker, but that Witherspoon interception he had in the practice, that looked like cover 4 Griff. So Seahawks playing cover 4, who'd have thought it? Also, was that Bobby Wagner as the quarter flat player not playing 2 out properly?
I wasn't even looking into it enough.
I think it may have been.
Maddie, I have a question for you. An important one. When you were growing up, this is like a weird quirk that I've.
Wow, that was a while ago. Despite my youthful looks and
so a couple
other
years
words to do with being young. This is a while ago for me,
Yeah. Would you ever take words and like Greekify them or Hellenize them? Their pronunciation?
Or is it
just me?
Do you prefer Hellenize? Is Hellenize, like, in your view, a more suitable word than Greek?
Well, Hellenize would be the actual word, right? Greekify is like
right.
What an Anglican speaking person would say, but like Hellenize would be anyway. So the premise here being that like Greek words, when you look at them, look really intimidating, right? But they all flow really nicely, like they're really easy to say. Like,
for instance,
Thucydides, democracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on and so forth. So like pine cone, okay, don't laugh. But you look at pine cone, it becomes
as in the word pine cone, not the
word pine
object.
cone. The word pine cone, or even I would look at a pine cone and I'd say penekone, or telescope, which I think has Greek roots anyway. Telescopy. Or vehicles.
What about colonoscopy? Is that Greek?
There you go. Well, that's already Greek, right? But like vehicles, vehicles. Is that just me? I mean, it's fun. Like pine cone is now way more fun to say. You'll never look at a pine cone and not think, God damn it.
I think me? I think the way Americans speak is suited to this.
I thought something was coming. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, I've
like the way you pronounce aluminum.
Aluminium.
The way that you pronounce that, it is like similar to the way that you're pronouncing all these Greek words.
Interesting. Yeah, we like to be interesting. Well, but you guys like to make things easier to say. You guys like to drop sounds and
whoa. Let's not generalize.
I mean, aluminium is kind of, you guys were like out of character with that one.
Well, that's the thing. We just get out of character all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like we totally just abandoned the I in the suffix there, in the suffix eum.
I before E except after C.
We just pretend like the I's not even there. Aluminum. To the point where we even spell it differently. Like we abandoned the Latin spelling.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
that's very odd.
Anyway, I know this is a blast to talk about, but we have more important things to discuss, such as this tweet that you tweeted, where you said, Maddie, you said, classical Carolism asserts that Pete is old school and that is good. Wilsonian Carolism argues that Pete is old school and that's bad. You continued, but heterodox Corellians offer that Pete is and always has been, in fact, new school and has acted under that principle under our noses. What did you mean by that?
What would Kissinger say on this?
Kissinger would be he would be classical Carolism,
Okay.
which is not a compliment.
No. I mean, we don't have to get into Kissinger, but
We don't
yeah.
need to do that.
No. That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, that's
Literally.
Seattle Overload gets into geopolitics.
Yeah.
Which
This
would
is
just
the
be
podcast. This isn't for
we've
your casual geopolitical fan. This is
we're
for
all,
your...
yeah, but we're already on record that this is a pro-pacifist, anti-war podcast, though.
That is correct.
Anyway,
no big deal. Okay. So Jen asked, "Am I in the woods?" Metaphorically speaking, I was in a woods of sorts. Yes. Griff keeps going to the busiest pharmacy of all time.
that got a chuckle out of me earlier.
Yeah.
I was not at the pharmacy this time. I was actually in the woods, and I saw an owl, by the way.
Wow. That's nice.
Yeah, and I tweeted a picture of it in a video.
Oh. Do you know what type of owl it was?
It was a barred owl. That's the kind of owls we have around here.
Nice.
For the most part.
Cool.
They're really dumb, which is funny. Like in popular culture, we think of owls as the wise old owl, right?
Yeah.
That's like a thing common to like the mythos of cultures everywhere, going back centuries, millennia. The wise owl, but they're like really dumb birds. That's kind of funny to me.
Okay.
They get by on their looks and their cunning, I think.
And the fact that they can turn their head like that gives off an impression of, all-knowing.
Mm-hmm. Like omniscience, that you can literally see omnidirectionally.
Yes.
And
the sound they make is kind of, seems smart. Why would they say that? They're sort of pondering.
Yeah. Sometimes stoicism is mistaken for deep thought, but like really, like there's just fucking.
They're stupid. There's nothing going on.
There's nothing.
They're bird brained
in there. Yeah, they're bird brained.
Yeah.
Speaking of cultural mythos, though. Isn't it interesting how every single culture has essentially what amounts to a Bigfoot figure?
Fascinating.
And I was reading
almost as though Bigfoot is real.
Perhaps, but I was reading, I mean, like you can fathom, like, okay, we've coexisted with other great apes, other primates. You see one standing on 2 feet and it's all hairy and they're pretty big from a distance. And one little kid runs back to the village. Mom, Dad, everyone, townsfolk. I just saw such and such. And then things spiral out of control, right? Like the big fish story gets bigger every time. There was a species of ape called Gigantopithecus that went extinct not that long ago in the grand scheme, like 50,000 years ago. And it was just basically like a huge orangutan, like twice the size of a modern day orangutan. So like 10 feet tall on 2 feet. And so you see that, it's like, oh my God. But they are people that like anthropologists and stuff that are trying to find out what's the source of this. It's actually, their best guess is that it's not other like apes. It's bears, because bears are everywhere. And you see a bear on hind legs. It looks bipedal, or it would be bipedal in that case. And you think it's got general proportions of something humanoidish. And it's actually comes from bears.
Okay.
Because that's something that every culture would see.
Yes.
Anyway, whatever.
Yes,
Maddie, I know you.
Achilles in the chat points out we also shared the planet with other species of human. That is what I thought you're going for. But
that's true. That's true.
Again,
no, Maddie, I know you want to keep talking about this, but we have to talk about Devon Witherspoon.
Okay. Let's do that. Brand, right? If you've listened to this preamble, this is the Seattle Overload podcast. It is a Seahawks podcast, and we're going to talk about the Seahawks after this. But you can find us on podcast apps. Please search Seattle Overload. Download the podcast. 5-star review. Right, let's go. Oh, and like the video if you're watching live. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griffin and I are kicking off our breakdown of the Seattle Seahawks 2023 NFL draft class. That is going to be every single pick that Seattle made. I think there was 10 in total, wasn't there?
I don't know. I
That
can't
sounds
count that
really
high.
high, but I think there was. So it's a lot of work. But we're starting with a bang. The number 5 overall selection, Devon Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois. This was a pick that we were slightly surprised about, although we did mock beforehand because he was the most Seahawky cornerback in the draft. We'll get into all of that. But Griff, let's start with the testing. So he didn't test that much, and he's since been limited at Seahawks OTAs with a hamstring thing, which maybe that's partly training for the combine. He has arms which are 31 and a quarter inch long, so below that 32-inch long threshold that Seattle in the past had looked for. And he's also under 6 foot, 5 foot 11 and a half, which again, slightly shorter than Seattle had in the past. But as they showed first with Trey Brown, then with DJ Reed, they were kind of more open to a smaller cornerback mold. As we spoke about in the past, they had Pete Carroll had Donnie LeGrand back in his days at NC State when they also had a longer cornerback opposite him. He's been open to this, and with the Seahawks transitioning to more types of coverage, having the smaller type of corner makes sense too. He ran a 4.45 seconds 40-yard dash, a 1.58 seconds 10-yard split. That's the only things he tested on. But he was also clocked by one of the GPS trackers with a 23.5 miles per hour open speed. So that is rapid. So he's no slouch, and the tape shows that too. So I actually think he tested worse than what he shows on tape.
I would
Griff,
agree. Yeah,
thoughts?
I would agree with that. However, like he definitely still feels like maybe a 4.4 guy and not a 4.3 guy, which 4.4 guy is still really fast, but you're not the fastest
Pathetic.
guy you're not the fastest guy on the field though. And that's not going to be his game. He's not going to be the best player. He can be the best player on the field, but he's not going to be the best player on the field because he is the fastest guy. Like it's everything, like being greater than the sum of his parts. Really good agility, great speed, not elite speed, technique, and then just the other qualities that he has. He's a guy that, like, it's funny because Pete mentioned Troy Polamalu, right? But not like actually like actual safety play, right? But he could totally play safety. He could be one of those corners that could actually play safety if you gave him a full camp at the position.
Yeah, it's funny actually that we're sort of this is jumping the gun, but I'm excited about it. A lot of his best plays come in and around the line of scrimmage in a way that makes you wonder if maybe he should play nickel to kind of harness that. That being said, there are still a lot of stuff that I think in the NFL, I think more plays will happen. Like the type of targets he'll get will allow him to make more plays as a perimeter cornerback, being on the outside. But that is an interesting element to his game, and they have to find ways to send him on blitzes from the outside if he is going to play on the outside spot. He started at left cornerback in OTAs. Tariq Woolen's limited. Tariq Woolen's out after injuring his knee. Had a small operation. He's going to be back in 6 weeks' time. So that's put Mike Jackson, who would have been competing with Witherspoon. Jackson's now taken the right corner spot in the first string defense, and Witherspoon slotted immediately to left corner. Already made a play, which I just referenced. So, yeah. So you mentioned the Troy Polamalu thing. Seattle clearly was massively into Witherspoon's character. John Schneider also, after the draft, said about how that he was their guy. There was two guys that they wanted on the defense. They viewed him, and I assume the other one was Will Anderson Jr. And as soon as Anderson went, Witherspoon was the dude. They had a green dot on him and a blue dot on him, which both those things combined meant he was a true Seahawk guy. These dots are like, so they have the scout card or the report card. They put it up on the board, and then they'll put little stickers on it to make sure that the card pops, the fitting players into cool categories. And another category he had was a hammer, which means he likes to hit people, and boy does he, by the way, which we'll get to. They were nervous waiting it out. They described how he's a true vet sort of dude, hyper competitive, and yeah, Carroll comparing his mentality to Troy Polamalu is, I mean, that's just ridiculously rare praise. And Carroll himself he's a psychologist, so he's very much into the mental makeup of guys, and he'll have seen a lot of dudes and studied them in detail. So the fact that Witherspoon's got that before we get to the tape is very encouraging.
Agreed.
So, general tape observations, Griff. Like, how good is he?
Yeah, he's really good. He's not perfect, and I think that he can be close enough to perfect with improved technique, because like watching him is weird because like he does things that they're just not going to ask him to do very much of here. Now they're like you've hinted at some changes with maybe one of their corners to play more off, especially in quarters for various reasons. So like that would translate really easily for him. But it's funny, like the first corner they take in the first round basically doesn't check off almost a single aspect aside from the intangible stuff and just the general physicality of things that we typically associate with common Seahawks corners, like height, length, profile, and then their classic press technique, right? And it's like he doesn't really live in those areas for them. He's like it's just funny that the guy they take at 5 is kind of like just a juiced up DJ Reed, in some ways. Which, a juiced up DJ Reed is probably an all pro player, right? He's already in a great corner. So it's like an elite athlete. If DJ Reed were an elite athlete, right? And I'm that's being a little too fast and loose with the comparisons there, but yeah, I mean he can really squeeze in breakers. He's really physical. He plays way above his weight. His recovery speed is really good. His trigger is really good. When he runs into problems, I think it's more just like how he's playing, like intentionally, deliberately playing the route, kind of working himself into issues that he doesn't have to. Like it's not showing the limits of his traits. I think like there's so much room to be even better than he already is, which is crazy to say because he's, you don't draft a guy at 5 overall for their ceiling. It's ceiling and floor. I think the floor is already really high. But what are your general impressions with him?
Yeah, I mean, having watched all of his games from 2022 and 2 from 2021, while the press is not typically Seahawky, he didn't give up any catches in it. Like,
Yeah.
there was like one defensive pass interference thing. He still exhibits like the patience that they'd want, and he's super physical. Not just like coming down, making a hit and cover 2, but he's physical throughout the route, almost too physical, which Seattle likes players who push that edge. And so it's not just an intangibles thing in terms of like being competitive, driven, like dialed in, but also like his awareness during plays and his ability to kind of just see things, process things, multiple routes, what routes coming, pre-snap, and then post-snap, how the route develops, what he thinks during that phase, understanding when he can take a shot and make plays, understanding when he can look back for the ball. That's massive, and I'm actually surprised he didn't have more production on the football because like he has all the traits to be like a almost a double-digit interception player. Like if he gets the throws at him, and so like he in theory can do everything that Tariq Woolen does in terms of the scheme. So like they have 2 scheme versatile corners, either opposite sides of each other. Obviously they bring a different skill set. And you've got kind of a big and a small, and like just under 6 foot is not small. But like they within like a cover 2, Seattle's current system can play like a variety of techniques in that cover too. Like they can play off and kind of catch it at 5 yards. They can press it up at the line. They can almost play man trail underneath that, which the Fangio system calls maze. And I think these are all things that like Witherspoon could do. And you know, that's not just in cover 2. Like in cover 4, there's similar variations. And then yeah, and Witherspoon, just the way he stays square, the way he pedals, the way he plays top down on routes and cuts routes off. It's just how Seattle's playing with their corners now. Like it just screams Seattle. Like, which is what I said. You know, when they drafted him, like he just looks really like a Kyle Scott, who obviously is the passing game coordinator. It just looks really Seattle-y. Like he can be anything they want him to be, and that's pretty cool. Like I think as good as Mike Jackson was last year, and you know the fact no one really talked about him shows how good he was, because he wasn't getting beat deep. He was giving up catches you'd probably expect him to underneath at times, but like. This is a different level. Like Mike Jackson's big, he's physical, he hits people, but he just doesn't quite have the full range of stuff that Witherspoon can bring. And he's only 22. You know, he turns 23 in December. He's still learning, and it was cool that I'm trying to find the quote, but it was cool. He referenced on the visit. Yeah, here you go. He referenced on the visit that you know, he's asked about how Pete Carroll was impressed with the time he spent with Witherspoon, and Witherspoon mentioned how he was enjoyed how the way that Carroll talked ball with him, and that they went over a couple of press technique things, and the way that Pete Carroll broke it down was a lot of little things that add up to big things. So that's very cool too. And like, there's no reason he can't learn it. Like he has the traits to succeed in that, which we'll see on the tape.
Good stuff. Good stuff. No, I agree. I especially like that quote from Pete too. They clearly have a vision with him. You know, like it's not just like they might be able to pick and choose some of what he already is, but then they're going to mold him, like you said, to whatever they want him to be. Like his feet out of a break are really impressive, man. Like you talk about like a receiver, like how clean they are out of a cut, how much do they drift, how sharp of an angle can they break? Well, the same things apply for corners. The reason why those routes are so hard to cover is can the corner do that too? But then they're also reacting to it. It's like they're naturally disadvantaged because the receiver makes the first move. One, he's really good at reading the routes, reading the stem to inform him how to play the break and anticipate the break. But just his pure feet at breaks are really impressive stuff that you just either you can do or you can't. It's kind of like the equivalent of route running for a corner. The flip side of that coin. The agility is pretty dang good. So
yeah, and today Clint Hurt actually spoke at OTAs about Witherspoon, and he said how they fell in love with him during the process, and he's super smart, and his competitiveness is unique. So let's get to the tape. That's mentality testing. If you're in the chat and you have a question, please do ask it. I see Photo Emotions asked, being a smaller cornerback, is he going to miss out on interceptions? Well, I've sort of answered that, but no, not really. I mean, like, this isn't a 5'9" dude like a DJ Reed, and those 2 inches or 2.5 inches, they do matter in that you can elevate a bit more. Like, and he high points the ball well. He gets his head around for the ball very well. I didn't see anything which should suggest that. Now, obviously, if you're 6'4", you have a better shot of getting the really high balls, and you probably have longer arms, which helps you reach into catch points. And there was like maybe one play where you'd think if you had longer arms here, you get a pass breakup. But like, he's always at catch points, even when he's a bit slow out of a cut for whatever reason. He's right at the catch point. He knows kind of what's coming. He has a recovery ability because he understands, like, okay, I've got a wide inside release, and I've thought about going for the crosser, and this guy's cut it back for the high corner route instead. Well, I know from
Mhm.
the inside stem, the inside release, that it's either going to be a crosser or a corner. So, okay, I've played the crosser and messed up a bit, but I can just get in the transition back, flip back, go in the low hit pocket, and play the corner route. There's stuff like that where, because he knows the routes, he knows the route trees. Like, it's good. On the flip side,
Mhm.
against offenses where he didn't quite know as much, there are certain things where they didn't have as much tells, or maybe there's less study or available to him. There's certain things where there's unfamiliar situations where he does get caught out a bit. The thing with the NFL is every offense in the NFL is very predictable and relatively speaking, right? There's and similar. Like there isn't the wide variation that there is in college. So I think he'll just
Right.
benefit from that, along with the fact that he'll probably have a coaching staff which is more dialed in on getting tendencies and has more resources to do that. Uh okay, no other questions. Right, let's get to the tape. So this is Indiana, and we'll just cycle through it. If you're listening on audio, thank you very much for doing that. We will, this is on the YouTube, but we'll try and describe this for you audio wise as well. So we'll just cycle through. This is the first play of the game. Here he is at the bottom of the screen. But we'll just cycle through this. Griff, if you just talk through as well. Oh,
Yeah.
so everyone would have seen this play. A lot of people, this is the first introduction. But immediately as a corner, Illinois do a nice job of disguising cover two here. And he knows when he can take his shots. Carroll said he spoke to him about sort of trying to get a gauge on how he knows when to take his shots and when not to. And Carroll was clearly satisfied that he was, he's not just cheating stuff; he's actually seeing stuff.
Mhm.
Here, 4 strong, this kind of look is a clear indicator that they're going to throw it to the running back on like a screen pattern, but also as a cover two corner, you've got 4 to one side, so you're really stretched. So
And
if you can
there's
do something
also,
like this,
for sure, and then you also probably see something on tape too, uh, hinting at this tendency wise.
Scott asked, "Do you think he may eventually follow number ones into the slot? Seems a perfect rocked up, quick footed slot, or is he just too good at inbreakers?" Yeah, he could do, Scott. You can play matchups with him, but also with Woolen, right? Like now, Woolen, you don't want in the slot from like in a like he's high. You know, he's taller, so it takes a while sometimes, even though he has some crazy movement skills.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, they can bring back their cover one package, which they used very little of last year, in favor of cover three match. So you can go all over the place with them if they want to do that.
Yeah,
Because that's obviously where you'd see him in the slot most likely, following guys.
okay, so this is
Yeah.
an example of getting set late, but one thing he had trouble with was Indiana. He um, against the super wide splits of Indiana,
Hmm.
he kind of overstepped his leverage, which is a rare thing. But if you watch him here, he overstepped. He should just stay on the inside of this.
Right.
But he's set late, but there's other examples of this happening against other
Right.
teams where that one kick was fine, and then his body positioning is wrong here.
It's bizarre. Like he's not using the sideline. Like it's not there.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's just wide splits messing him up. He almost recovers with the flip back, but it's partly a case of getting set late.
Yeah. But like
Um,
you said, there are more examples, and that's kind of to me falls under the umbrella of like self-inflicted, like with technique or coaching. I mean, that's something that we will probably see very little of.
yeah,
It's like he's overplaying the stem relative to the sideline.
yeah. Um, and number 10 as well on Illinois, sophomore guy. I forgot his name now. He's a good corner too.
Is it
And what
Nicholson?
we should say about Illinois' defense as we just move through the plays is they played a lot of cover one and a lot of just corners on islands, bare front, and go and get it.
So he's at the
And
bottom of the screen here, right?
yeah, Witherspoon was mainly their boundary corner, which shortest throw in college football. Tend to put your best guy there,
Right.
and he was very effective. So he used a catch technique and off coverage that throughout the season it started to disappear, and he just pedaled more because what was happening in catch was he was lunging a bit too much, and he wasn't being able to transition vertically. Here he gets a good catch and is able to move with it more.
Reroute it.
But as the season progressed, I was actually very impressed with how Witherspoon kept improving. Like stuff that cropped up, say like game one, and let me check what's Indiana. I think Indiana was like game 6. But as the season developed, he just kept bettering his game, which again, like honing your craft, learning, it's all positive signs.
What I liked about that rep earlier, that snap that goes into the end zone, he can defend the whole route tree, like in that snap. Like he's not overplaying one thing at the expense of the other. He's playing it honestly, and he can just play to what the receiver is indicating to him. So he doesn't have to overplay one thing to defend it. Like he can defend the inbreaker and still be honest with the deep ball. And that's what high end corners do. They don't have to kind of divide and conquer. They can just play what they see because they have the traits to recover if necessary.
Absolutely. And kind of on that point as well, like there are what was I saying here? Yeah, he can eliminate. He does everything. Like his tape is so good and consistently good that you kind of get numb to how good it is. Like you take for granted how he makes things look so simple. That you shouldn't be as tight to the routes that he is, but he's tight to all manner of routes. There wasn't like usually guys overcompensate or they cheat a certain thing, but he's just over everything. So it's like, what's the weakness here? Now that catch thing that I mentioned was a tiny weakness, and maybe we'll see it a bit later. But you know, he cleaned that up. He stopped doing it. That was more of a not his technique issue, but just a problem with the technique. And here, this is a beautiful job. So off inside leverage, off man, gets a sluggo, and this is fake offense, by the way. And again, college caveat: you don't get this in the NFL very rarely. Not to the wide, hashes would be tighter, but this is really like we're gonna screw you. We're gonna put loads of people in protection. We're gonna pump fake. We're gonna take forever, and we're gonna try and throw the sluggo. But this is a pretty good recovery, all things considered.
Yeah. I mean, look at his feet at each break. The first move and the second move.
And his ability to flip back his hips, get his hand on. Now, okay, it's not the best because you want to stay square a bit longer. But again, later in the season, like Michigan tried to get him on a similar thing, and he stayed square for that one step longer and switched back. Like he learned very quickly. But here, there's really not much room for the ball.
And you're never going to have that much space either, like you said, fake offense with college splits.
Yep.
So that means he can make different assumptions with his own deliberations, like what risks he decides to take, which risks he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like he probably wouldn't have to play the slant part of the sluggo that aggressively. Because if it is a slant, given that it's to the field and with college hashes, I mean he's a free runner, right? If it's caught. So
yeah. And he finds a way to get involved on plays. So when Illinois plays cover 2, they they try to get their corners involved in the run when they see run, but he's always like running to the ball, sticking his snout in, high effort. Here, this is a pretty off coverage rep against
Bottom of the screen.
against
Or is
a
he
what?
top of the screen?
No, he is bottom.
he's...
Like he gets a stutter in the pattern, and he's not fooled by it. He honors it though. It's not overcompensating. There's a slight stutter. He slows and then on the route. Oh,
there were some press examples against Indiana, weren't there?
I think so.
I
Here's
think
an
I
example
have
of getting involved in the run.
clip 17 and clip 20.
Okay, thank you. Okay, here we go. And because he's inching off, there is no. I mean, even when Seattle plays press, they don't ever want to be like literally face fronting the receiver. If anything, the more space they are off, the more time you have for the receiver to read the receiver's release.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you want to be close enough to be able to get your hands on. So they say an arm's length away, maybe slightly more. Here, because he's an inch off technique, I believe. Hopefully, this isn't cover 2. But because he's an inch off technique, having that extra space makes sense because otherwise, you're already going to reset the line of scrimmage. So you may as well start slightly further back than being really close. So here, very, very comfortable. And this bucket step to run the route basically for the receiver. Now it's a pretty poor route, but it's a sort of inside release, straight and then inside.
Yeah.
He gets a hand on, very comfortable, very smooth transition, all over that if it gets thrown.
Mm-hmm. As soon as the receiver drops his hips at the break, his drop almost like in sync.
Yeah, he drops his hips and throttles down really nice at cards.
Yeah, like he knows it's coming on top of being able to just react as well.
This is a good cover 2 rep because one is vertical and inside. Dips inside after he tried to reroute outside. You have to deny the outside release in cover 2 to buy time for the half safety, especially when they're rotating from it. But here, the way he sinks his butt, which we saw this kind of bail technique show up in that OTA interception. The way he sinks his butt for that corner, then it's a corner stop, but he's visioning the football.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's weird with college splits. Like he's never going to see that much space as a cloud corner. But it's just a good example of him understanding what's happening. And if anything, like playing a cloud to the field in the NFL will be even easier than it is in college. So that just translates to even better play. I liked this play a lot.
This is awesome. So again, understanding what's happening, right? Like he's an off man. It's a designed rub concept. But he knows that he's got this guy here, so he has to go over the top. Fine. Great break and really solid hit. Again, also the hit is legal, like shoulder contact. Perfectly safe, but
there's your Earl Thomas play, Scott.
We got it, did we? Oh, here's another example of the
overstepping, right?
Yeah. So it just was unique to this game, and I wondered if he would have an issue with receivers who duck.
See, that's too much. Like, why he's trying to collision it? He thinks it's a go, and he's going to collision it, right?
It's a good route, but this is something that, as the season developed, this stopped happening. He cleaned this up,
right?
Because this was a problem. The overly opening, overly stepping outside.
Now, yeah, like he's playing what he sees. He's playing it honestly, and that's the problem, right? Because that means he ends up falling for it.
Well, partly, but also that receiver doesn't actually the receiver from here to here doesn't actually widen. It's just a jab step across, which gets him crossing his leg. The receiver widens here, right? He started here, he's widened here, but the next few steps he doesn't actually widen at all. It's just this jab step which gets him opening all the way.
This doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and like you said, like that shrivels up. Like we don't see very much of that.
No, he adjusted to this. It's
right.
just too much. Didn't need to slide out like this. He had the cushion.
And with a isolated receiver on the Seahawks, he's going to be impressed there anyway. So that situation, that context wouldn't even come up. If it's cover 3, that is, he'd be impressed in all likelihood.
Yeah, so the other thing to mention about him is he's very good at disguising things, both in press and off, which is massive for Seattle because they basically want the coverage from the corners to look exactly the same until it isn't, which sounds stupid, but like if you're in cover 2 off, you want to like Witherspoon is very good at peddling, and then okay, now is the time to play my cover 2 zone. I'm going to play it.
Right.
His pedal will look exactly the same in man until it's the time to transition with the receiver down the field. In press, he will inch off in the same way in cover 2 as he would in cover 1 until it's time to play his cover 2 zone. And in Seattle, that's what they want from their corners. And that's what, like, Mike Jackson, when pressed up, he can't quite give you that level of disguise. He kind of has to cheat a bit more to the assignment. I think this might have been a good play. Oh, no. Okay. Here we go, pressed up at the bottom of the screen. So inch off, and he's got this outside release. Oh no, walk it out release. So this is slightly out of shape, and this is it's not a real route. This is an instance where Seattle would it would be similar with a guy trying to run through your frame, but you'd produce a 2-arm lockout with a guy down the middle of you like this. But here it's a bad situation where you end up, once you make contact with your outside arm, even though your foot's back, your hip is locked. So you have to turn like this, and that gives up the red line. Now, it's a super wide split, so it's not a big deal here. But in the NFL, you can't be doing that. So there's like tiny things in his press, and he recovers very well, but there's tiny things in his press that Seattle will look to tune up. But again, like, as the season progressed, this kind of evaporated. I mean, honestly, a lot of this stuff kind of feels nitpicky. Good processing in the 2. There's better examples.
Sim playing his smash rule there.
Yep. For the Indiana game, we really chose was because there was a few difficult moments. It's a very unique offense. He would have been on that crosser.
Yeah, and that's the fact that he can handle like those race routes, you know, from the outside. I like that route too because I like how he goes to collision it.
Yeah, while staying square.
Yeah, while staying square.
You may think, okay, well, there's a slight window here. Well, one, it's towards his help where the post safety is, but 2, the collision disrupts the timing of this.
Yeah.
And now, one thing, and he acknowledged it, but in the NFL, the contact window, you can't do it after 5 yards.
Right.
So how he adapts to that in his game is going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he's probably going to just try to get his money's worth at the line of scrimmage then, right? Like instead of inching,
you'd think,
more go 2
because he likes playing physical.
Right. But on that previous play, I like you said, he stays square. Like he could have opened his hips way earlier, but he decides to shuffle one last time. separate place almost so that he can get contact on him
Yeah,
when he didn't have to.
it's that confidence to stay as
Right.
top down square for as long as you can, which the
Which
very
is
best
another
guys
reason
do.
why he'd probably make a hell of a safety too. Like playing quarter technique, like a lot of this kind of translates with the footwork and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's for 10 years down the line when he loses his top end speed and wants to prolong his career. Little Charles Woods in action.
Yeah. This is an overstep, so you should not be stepping this wide and shifting your body weight distribution this much. It should be more step. If you're gonna do this, then um than this really wide. As soon as you step wide like this, and he's thinking it's a wide outside release, but again, like look at where the splits are. This is super wide. You can just step here. And because it's so wide, he gets beat on the switchback. He also gets picked, which doesn't help. But good recovery.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. McNuggets. Good to see you in here. Good name. Bottom of the screen. And like with him being a smaller corner, hitting this hard, like, are you concerned? Like, I mean, he hasn't had injuries really, has he? As far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I guess the hamstring was non-contact.
Yeah, I think that was
Look at
more like
that.
a
He
training thing.
pulverizes the receiver.
Yeah, this is an awesome. This is an awesome rep. Keying the receiver. Look how here. I love this. So a big thing as well. If you're going to eliminate routes, you're counting steps, right? So if it's 3 steps, it'll be a slant. It'll be a like it could be a shallow hitch. But that'd probably be at 5 steps. It could be a quick out. Then as the route develops, like we're getting towards 7 yards here. Watch how this 7 yard. So 7 yards is at the 12-yard line, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
8 yards is 7 yards is 13. But watch how at this moment here he thinks about getting hands on for the comeback, and then he transitions to the fade. So he eliminates each part of the route. Like we said, he doesn't get beat on any route really. It's all just eliminating routes throughout the thing.
Mm-hmm. Filtering out possibilities.
Yeah.
And the rapid transition to stay on top, like his feet are just. It's just so funny that he's basically has sweet feet, but then he plays like he's Brandon Browner up top, like.
Yeah. Almost too lungy at times.
But he's just embracing like this when you're playing catch. That's kind of that's what you need to do. So again, the principle of what he's asked to do is really good at.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. So here he's pressed up in the slot, and this is just complete obstruction. And look how he stays square throughout the.
Yeah,
he doesn't need to move. He's just all over it.
Yeah, and he probably knows a slot fade is coming.
Yeah, I mean,
he probably knows like it's a running back. He's going to run a hitch.
Yeah, as soon as they get the back out of the backfield like this guy reduced down. It's because they want to create room for the slot fade flow. And he's all over it.
Demolishes this.
So Niels Toy asks, "Hey guys, what's the difference between left and right cornerbacks? Does it matter who's on what side between Woolen and Spoon?" Great question. So you'd like him to pick it if you're going to be nitpicky, wouldn't you? So obviously Seattle did play their number 1 cornerback on the left side. Obviously, remember Richard Sherman. I think the thing even behind that was a right-handed quarterback opens more likely to their right because this is an easier throw. Their hips are open to that side. For them to throw left takes longer. Therefore, less of the route tree is likely. Less the primary concepts, etc., etc. But we'll have to see because, Woolen is in his own right. They're different types of number 1s.
Yeah.
But there's no real reason to do that, and you could see the pinnacle could be they literally just shift around based on based on matchups. But Willen has been working on the right side, and Pete Carroll does still like to keep guys on the same side, so that think about it. Your plant foot is always going to be consistent. You're going to have consistent looks. That's the other reason for keeping guys on side. And Witherspoon does have his fair share of reps on the left, the right, and in the slot. So I think they'll just keep them on the sides, especially in his rookie year. So I'd expect Willen to be right side, Spoon to be left, and that to be that.
I think some other considerations that there are, like, it's booting to the quarterback's right is more common because they're a little right-handed. So again, that throws easier. So if you, for a two high team, they're going to play a lot of the one high still. Don't get me wrong, but for a two high team where you set the cover two side of the passing strength, where you're clouding the corner, you'd like to have more length there if possible. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. But like you said, like 5'11" isn't small. It's just not freakishly huge, right? The other component to it is, though, when we think to the past, when teams would put their, because the passing strength would be, because the passing strength is more often to the right. That's not always true, but it's an often thing, right? Because historically they couldn't get anything going there because of Earl Thomas in the middle, Richard Sherman on the right. Like, there just wasn't any schematic option. Your structure couldn't beat their structure. They would resort to just playing, all right, well, let's at least work isolation routes on the left side to Byron Maxwell. Like, maybe Jordy Nelson can get open on Byron Maxwell, which they would move the ball. Demarius Thomas, like in the Super Bowl, they couldn't get anything going with their actual plays. So like, hey, let's just resort to one-on-ones. So if that principle is, given that the passing strength is to the right, that means they're still going to be putting their maybe their best receiver on the left. That route, those concepts, the routes that are going to stem from that are just isolation, more one-on-one opportunities. So if your right corner then is super long and can test the ball really well, you're taking that away too. So then you have Tariq Woolen on the right side. For this assumes that their collective pass defense is good enough to the passing strength on the offense's right side of the field, that if you can actually shrink them down to running that one-on-one stuff, then you've got Tariq Woolen there. It's like, well, good luck with that, because he soaks up the ball. So
yeah, this is cool. So they try get him on the slugger again, an inch off press, and he stays more square with his feet. He doesn't start opening his body. He stays square as long as possible. Look at this quarterback trying to throw this. He ain't having any of that.
So with it, Maddie, with the inch technique, you're basically you're staying square off the line of scrimmage, and then you're mirror stepping once they make the step, once they make their first move,
No.
essentially. Okay.
So I don't know what, I don't exactly know how Illinois is coached, but the whole point is you foot fire.
Yeah.
So you inch off the line of scrimmage, whatever, right?
Right.
The point being, in the time that you've done that, they'll have released.
They'll have released, but like, let's say they're making a break. Like, how are you responding then to, say, a break within 5 yards? Like, here, are you just...
Well, it's the direction of the release. So if I'm inching off backwards and he releases outside, I inch off backwards and then I slide out. I try to get hands on, slide to the outside, or I inch off backwards. If he suddenly breaks sharply inside or outside immediately, then you stop the inch and you just go with it.
Okay. I was just wondering if, I was just wondering if there was a footwork specificity kind of after the receiver kind of makes a declaration, I guess, off of the release. I don't know. So like,
well, you have to widen with his hip, or narrow with his hip.
So you're trying to maintain your initial like slight inside number leverage, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if they release wide, you're trying to maintain that position just from your inchings. You're just not jamming. You're not.
When you say release wide, like immediately wide.
Sure. Like, just say a speed release wide. You're trying to go down the field with the go.
Speed release wide. You might realistically, you're gonna step forward with your foot to initiate the foot fire to inch off. but then the release wide is going to happen. So you're just going to slide outside wide.
Okay.
So the inch wouldn't even happen. It would just
Okay.
look like a false step, even though it isn't.
I see.
Okay.
It's like he's trying to get pass breakups on hitch routes too.
Yeah, he even in off man, when he knows like he's got a hitch and he'll break on the hitch, he'll honor his assignment, but he'll look to get involved if he can. So here we have cover 2, which gives you more of a chance. Good step, shuffle, hands on the outside route, buys time for this half safety. Nice hinge, up the sideline, feeling one, deep to short. Vision on the ball though, feels one behind him. Vision on the ball. This is you get this sort of play if you're in zone bail, in a deep quarter, in a deep third, you got 2 or more up in your zone. This is overlapping. He almost makes a play, or he almost gets a crazy interception on the tip. And also this is good coverage from the high hold player as well. But also, if this guy catches the ball, he's absolutely smacking the crap out of it. Which, believe me, he does. Bottom of the screen. Can only just see that, can't you? Oh. So Griff, this was your
Yeah.
So they don't seem to foot fire too much, actually. But he takes one step back, and the hip is wide. So, oh no, this is 2-man. That's why. I was confused with what technique he was using. Yeah, so he's just looking to play in the low inside. So that's different. But the shuffle element is more Seahawky. Like you do the inverse. You'd step with the outside foot, but you can barely see that, can you? I don't know how much more we have of this. That's nice. So inch off again. And I don't know if he was going for the quick jam there. I guess he was. The receiver's trying to alter his speed to get him lunging or blaze past him. But this is excellent tempoing.
Yeah.
And then
look at that.
Wait, just patience. Like he hasn't done anything, so I'm just going to keep going back. And then here comes the break. Okay, let's get the hand on, flip back, and go.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean that's why he's.
Because a lot of patience is just being calm to understand that the receiver has to do something eventually. It's it could be scary because you're on an island. You're having to wait for a long, long time for him to do something, but he will do something. It's just that poise to.
Yeah. He's just religious about matching their tempo with his tempo and just playing it honestly because he trusts himself so much. Then here's just
so there is a real argument to play him in more cover 2 or play more cover 2 to his side because he hits people unlike Woolen. Now you can't just do stuff like that. Like you have to do both. Like you can't just play it to one side. But like cover 2 gives him an opportunity to play deep to short and punish people. Like he hits like a real safety type. If I need to do something real quick.
All right. I'll pontificate on the hitting like a
yes,
excellent. A true safety type. Maddie's controlling the tape, so I'm not able to rewind at the moment. But I mean, stuff like that matters because last year I mean, I don't know what the numbers actually add up to, but you don't really think about with corners like run defense, the ability to take on shed blocks for the screen game and everything. But they gave up a lot of yards. The corners did, Woolen and Mike Jackson, in situations where offenses were able to formation them into the run fit. So stuff like that matters because you're basically requiring the corners to function like a safety. So you have to be able to hit like a safety, like crack replace, or just straight up like you've got a nub tight end force assignment, or you have to fill in to the C gap if a D gap forms, stuff like that. And then from there, if they can get the corner into the run fit, then you can play action that corner. And both Tariq Woolen and Mike Jackson, some of their worst plays were like kind of like auxiliary aspects of corner play, where like they're getting play actioned. That 49ers game comes to mind. Each of them kind of got worked by Kyle Shanahan, stuff like that. So he'll, if you try to get him into the fit, he might actually, I mean, it's an advantage to the defense because he'll probably beat a tight end through speed, or a receiver through just sheer force. And then he has the smarts to filter through whatever the play action concept might be, go through his keys and then get depth so that he's not giving up an easy, sideline ball. So like with wing sets and stuff like that. So yeah, Maddie, I was talking about how when corners are pressed into service, when they're forced into the run fit by offensive formation, there's no disadvantage. He's a strength. And they probably gave up like hundreds of yards last year with stuff like that, either on the ground or through the air, just from the corners, like outside of their main, course of what they're asked to do, right? Like those auxiliary yards. So he's really, really good in that arena.
Yeah, so considering here he's basically playing 10 yards off his receiver, this is excellent usage of his cushion and the way he opens gradually and is able to then throttle down.
Yeah.
And okay, the receiver cuts his route off here, but look where the ball is actually thrown. It's behind the sticks because of how close he is. And it's incomplete, right? There's no room for it. Yeah, incomplete. So it may look like he's beat on the comeback. He's not. He's actually right where the comeback wants to be. Like the offense would draw up the comeback here. By the time the ball comes out, he's already there.
Right. And this is also, the ball's in the middle of the field, so it's kind of middle-ish enough. So it definitely translates in terms of like geometric proximity, right, to the NFL. Yeah. Maybe that's a regular boundary throw, and the timing of it still isn't there.
Yep. Man, he was absolutely destroying the slot. Yeah. Here, man on the tight end, which again, that he has that in his locker. Like if they need that to happen, okay, he's playing on the edge a bit more physically wise. Like there's a tougher matchup for his body, but like the disruption he gets here dissuades any kind of throw to this tight end.
Right. Like consider it's a gun 3 drop, and he gets to the top of the drop, and he's 7 yards away from his break. So yeah, does he separate at the top? But that's after like the timing is done. It's absolutely out of the question at that point.
Yeah.
The quarterback would have to hop in the pocket like 4 times before that ball could come out. So it's crazy that he can make that play.
Yeah. And so I spoke about him as a blitzer. Oh my gosh, that's sticky. I spoke about him as a blitzer. His disguise as a blitzer is really cool. And here he gets a comeback again. And another thing in games is he understands, like after seeing receivers do stuff and seeing offenses run routes and combinations, he starts getting closer and closer to it. Like he's like real time learning. Here, open up. No.
It's a weird technique that he plays here. He does it well, but like full on opening his hips like that it's bizarre to me, but it's just what Illinois does.
Well, this is the way to play the wide split vertical transition rather than sliding out. Because you can still throttle down with your butt here.
It's him fixing the error, right?
Yeah.
And like no in breakers coming there the way that he's playing it.
Nope.
Trusting his pedal, trusting his his burst if he has to go again.
And
Because
again,
he's
eliminating routes. Like, where would the in breaker be run?
right
It would be
there.
run at like 7 yards. We're at 10 yards now, so at 12 yards you start
Where
opening
he
up
is,
for the
I meant.
vertical, the
Yeah.
comeback. How do
Right.
you play the vertical, the comeback in this kind of position? And then
Right.
it's a 15-yard comeback, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Right. Right. So he's again defending the whole route tree.
Yep.
And like if that receiver one is running a stutter go, like he completely trusts himself. Like his speed out of that throttle down where he drops his hips, he knows he can gear up again.
Yep. And I this is subtle, but again, there are moments where he moves for the undercut. So here, this is cover two, collisioning the receiver. He sees that the quarterback's looking away, but to stick your foot in the ground and go to take this kind of straight path is really trying to get under routes.
Yeah. So like when plays break down like that, or rather they just develop, he's always, even if he's not making a hit, he's always running toward the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He's always trying to see, hey, can I go hit somebody? Which is very Sherman, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, he understand again, it's understanding like what's possible, like,
Yeah, right. Like
what's actually gonna happen.
if a play could be made, I have to do this because otherwise, if I don't get going now, a play won't be made. And it's not just like it's not even like admirable try hard shit, like glory thirsty. It's just like he's playing football. He just does it with such like fervor. Like it's all like psychological first. Like I'm playing the game,
Yeah.
and then I hit, and that's what made Sherman so special. Like Sherman was a football player before he was anything.
Yeah,
That's
see,
those are the vibes you get with Witherspoon.
yeah, see, here's that technique, about opening up for the vertical, turning your back. This is it working perfectly for an in cut because look where the in cuts run at, the depth of it. Honoring the starter,
Yeah,
12 yards. He's starting to open, but he's able to throttle down. Great
and
plant of the foot, and he's all over that route if
the
it is
sharp
going.
angle, like it's legit 90 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
his angles are superb that he
yeah,
takes to cuts.
I really think that the technique they'll give him, he'll be unstoppable. Honestly,
You don't think they'll? I think they'll have him pedal like this if it's a wide
no,
split.
no, I agree. I'm just saying within the other stuff that Illinois did not ask him to do, the stuff that we have yet to see him in. I think
Right.
he's going to like thrive in it. We'll definitely see it off pedal and all that, but
I'm interested in.
especially
Yeah,
against the
I'm
49ers.
interested how they play press. So obviously, Seattle in the past has coached this 6-inch outside read step. But I think with the feet that Witherspoon has and his anticipation, they'll probably mirror step him or pure step him, which is what they did with Tariq Woolen too. When I
And
asked Pete Carroll about that in Germany, he just said you have to observe guys. My observation of Witherspoon is he's more of a pure step guy. Uh, it's kind of what the big movers get given, the guys who have a bit more agility and quick explosiveness. Whereas like Sherman was never the burstiest, and nor was a Trey Flowers, for example. So they used the outside read step.
so, and the outside read step is where you're 6-inch stepping with your outside foot, no matter what the receiver does, right?
Yeah,
Whereas pure
in,
stepping is you're just reacting to their first step.
yeah, you just step off their first step.
So it's more reactive, more like, hey, you got to play ball. You don't have like the lecture. It's not like it's kind of like, not to be snide, but like no training wheels almost, right? Like you don't have the
Yes,
reliable.
yeah, but yes, and the 6-inch outside read step is primarily an outside release is going to be a fade route if you're lining up on the inside, like in press, so it protects against that. So this is awesome to be able to weave like this in his pedal as well.
Bottom of the screen again.
Yeah, weaving with the stem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean that's like playing with your food.
Yeah.
This rep. That's
So
like
my one thing you could ding him for. I mean, it's not his fault, but the level of comp is a question mark. Like the best receiver he's faced is very rarely because of how he was deployed. But Jaden Reed.
yeah,
Now, did Illinois play Ohio State in 2021? Because that would be a game to watch.
for sure.
But I
Did
don't
they?
have that. But like this year, he didn't play like Michigan. You know, they were an interesting offense, but they mainly just ran the ball against Illinois. Like
There is Penn
screen,
State.
yeah, Penn State, yeah. Again, it's like, yes, that's not going to work. Again, patience inching out. This guy's trying to slow off the ball, fake him into something all over the route. What's up, Cameron? Good to see you. Yeah, Jen, I need to fully listen to that. We mentioned that he was clocked at 23.5 miles per hour on a GPS tracker. That was a cool story from that Mitch Levy interview that the coach did. Is it Levy or Levy? I'd say you guys say
Uh,
Levy, right?
I don't even know what I think. Mitch Levy. I think he probably says Levy. I don't
Yeah,
know.
the coach was saying how offensive coordinator Illinois thought that Witherspoon was cheating because he didn't understand how he was getting the plays. Like he was just so good at
Oh
reading
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tape study
Yeah,
and just understanding football. Like, what are the possibilities based off general conventions and stuff?
yeah, receiver splits and real time awareness. Just some people have it, some people don't. Like there's a fine line between seeing everything or like seeing the I don't want to share that. Um seeing everything and then sort of overthinking, right?
Right.
You can get paused if you think or you're seeing the wrong thing, you know, but he just is dialed into the right thing, like the best guys. So what should we put on now, Griff?
Well, do we want to look at some of the Michigan State? Like you saw some Pete
Mm,
Carroll esque stepping that game, didn't you?
yeah, but I think
Kick
it's
slide,
better to do.
quick
So
step.
Schneider praised on the Richard Eisen show. Schneider praised his ability on crosses. Uh so and I think the Iowa game he had a tough moment as well. So let's get that up.
And I think my general impression from Iowa is that it was a really strong game for him too.
Yes.
He just
Yeah. I
had,
mean all of his games were
yeah,
really.
yeah. I remember I did a little bit of fretting the opening series or two against Wisconsin, and then he recovers and just dominates the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So
And
he
again,
works
it's
himself
that
out.
kind of thing of like when he gets into the game, like it's a problem.
Yeah, he's adapting to the information that they give him. Also, I know the major competition concern, but Tennessee Chattanooga, he had some really good, I thought, press reps,
Hmm.
just because it's hard to find the reps for it. But
Cameron, are you kidding? We just spoke about quality of competition.
he literally just missed it. We talked about it at 8:38, and he comes in at 8:39.
No shot.
Yeah,
8:38.
he's also
It's
not the volcano watcher that I
it's
am. So
4:38 here, pal. Look, here we go, running across the field with the motion, which is another thing they did. Navigating this designed rub, knowing what play concept is likely here. Cameron, don't apologize, and then smacking the crap out of him. Forcing the incompletion as well. It's a big hit. Oh, there's my number 10.
yeah, good player, Good
Good
player, number
player.
10.
Throwing, but good player. Did he get hurt? Because I didn't see him in some of the games, I don't think.
I
Anyway.
don't know. True sophomore.
And rarely
You gotta
does
love that.
Witherspoon stay blocked as well. Like, even on plays where it's run away, he gets off blocks, which is another thing that, you want to happen. Because you never know when getting off the block at the end is important.
Where is he? Is he top of the screen?
I think he's top, yeah. Forget about that one.
So the problem with the tape this year, the quality wasn't high resolution enough that it was hard to try to figure out.
Yeah, we should really complain about that.
Yeah.
I bring up my notes. Now I've got my notes here, but I can't see the chat. So Griff, you're gonna have to monitor the chat.
Okay.
So here I've put comfortable press man rep within line A10 deep out. So here we go.
So he's in the fit too. That's what I like about that.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to give him a few C gap things. Yeah.
It's just absolutely demolished this. The tight end, like he even tries to like use his upper body to separate a little bit and he straight whiffs.
Yeah.
Like right there, he whiffs. That's hilarious, man.
Also cool how he turned his head, but he also gets his head round looking for the ball coming out.
Yeah.
He understands. I mean, we've sort of said it, but he gets the timing of things, like the timing of a play, like when the ball's going to come, when it isn't, when it should be out. Not just from an offensive perspective, but like if Illinois were pressuring, he knows that the ball's coming out in accelerated fashion, so he'll adjust his technique accordingly. He'll adjust when he looks at the ball accordingly. There's like an inherent feel just to football that is just you just don't get that often.
Is that Calvin Avery who just made that play?
I think so. What could have been? Although Oluwatimi kind of whacked him around a bit.
They had a battle, but yeah, Oluwatimi had the better game. Number 4 on Illinois' front. Oh my God, he's so good at football.
Oh, there he is.
And there he is. He's really good. He's like a legit 280, 285, 4-eye.
In a bear front.
Extraordinaire.
What is this? Oh my God. Jesus.
He does everything. I can't believe he didn't come out.
Gap and a half.
He would have been.
Is the down block, win back into the C, bang.
I think after the draft process plays out, like the media, I think he would have been the consensus number 2 behind Carter of interior players.
Wait, he didn't come out, right?
No, he was draft eligible, but he went back. I'm sure the NIL deal was worth it, but
yeah, get your money. But yeah, I have to say, Illinois' defense was a fun watch. Just generally. Oh, here's a little blitz. Oh no, cover 2. Oh, full stop. Never mind. Let me get to the clips. I have this down as inch off with outside releasing press, ends up looking step kicky. So this is what I think you were saying. I assume it's this.
Because he has more of them as the season goes on. Yeah.
Oh. So this is a great example of I don't actually know if this is inch. No, this is it is a subtle one because it's low red zone. This is more like mirror stepping almost.
Yeah.
But look, his hip is open, so I wish I could zoom in, but because his outside, he's aligned on his inside eye, right, inside shade, but because his outside foot is slightly back, that means if it's a vertical outside release, he is able to still stay open and transition with that. If it's an inside release, he's on the inside, so he's fine.
Right.
So here, the way he steps with the outside is this is exactly how Seattle would transition from press. This step and then the step and the hand on with it. He gets 2 on, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of
this receiver looks back for the ball like maybe I'll get it. Like no,
yeah.
Good luck with that.
And if you're running an end zone fade there, like that's not
No.
Like his course is to reach the pylon, or to reach the end zone, he'd be like 5 yards out of bounds at that angle that he's going.
Yeah.
Like
I
just a
mean,
demolished
it's
rep.
probably just a runoff route given the run, but that's exactly how it would look. And I think this kind of stuff Seattle will look at and think we can really work this stuff in. We can play even a bit more aggressive with not even the notice how he backs off slightly, just stand in and play a bit more. But yeah. Um, well, I've put a lot of running with a yo-yo boot. Here we go. And that's pretty cool how he's
Yeah.
this path
He
here
almost
to,
makes a play on the quarterback too.
yeah,
It's
maniac.
legitimately hilarious. Yeah, I mean, Pete Carroll is probably like, you only see like the guys that are the total package in the way that he is every so often. Like, so I mean, pure cover skills, like just the purest of cover skills. Like you, Stingley might be a notch above him, just a bit. You know, Surtain probably just a touch above him, but and those guys are good all around football players, but they just lack what the extra stuff that he has. They
And
just don't quite have all the other stuff.
his ability to hang in the slot is really interesting to me.
Yes,
Like,
in
you
press and
shouldn't be able to
off.
stay in front like this on guys.
Yeah.
And to be in the slot, you have to be super competitive. It's so difficult, but he's just got it about him.
Yep. Yep.
So that is
And
an option.
that's a crazy rep. Yeah, it is. And he should handle the zone aspects, like the inside leverage and outside leverage components of nickel. Like he could be that guy. And what did the Rams do with Jalen Ramsey, or what did they do? He's their nickel in their penny package, right? And he's
Yeah,
like in base. In base, he's the outside corner, and nickel cover three, he's the outside corner. And then when it's time to play too high nickel, they kick him inside, because I mean he was also a safety in college, so he could be a legit safety as well. But because he has corner cover skills, you can match with him all day long, and then kick out and play whatever you want, your whole coverage menu. So
yeah.
they've got options. I don't know if they'll go there, but it's with Witherspoon. But
So Camden asked, does Britain have volcanoes? Yes, it does. They're all dormant though. All?
that's what you think.
Well, that's what they tell you, right? I mean, I don't know how many though. It's a good question.
That would be a good premise for the next Fast and the Furious movie. I
What lots
thought
of
that.
like really and you could bring back like a Don Cheadle type British accent.
Oh yeah, because in
Yeah,
Oceans, what
that
Oceans
that would
movie
be
was that?
perfect for Fast and
Oceans
Furious, actually.
17, where Don
Yeah,
Cheadle does a British accent. That's hilarious.
yeah. Jackson asks, can Witherspoon work well in both zone and man? Yeah, that's what we've said. But
Yes, sir.
he can. So this is an example of the catch technique. Now they are pressuring, I think. Well, they're bringing five and a twist up front. But here, this is a guy stepping to go wide outside. Like this jab step is wide outside. He should not, his feet should not be this static, and he's late in how you just can't play catch like that to this. It's super aggressive. And again, in the NFL, they flag that. So that's just something that it doesn't translate, but occasionally it was too lungy and like the feet weren't going before the hands.
Now, yeah, his recovery though is smart because he knows where his safety help is.
Yep,
So he's like, if I'm going to take a cutoff angle, I'm going to take the
yep.
right angle, which he does.
Exactly. Like again, from this point here, it's either going to go. I mean, it's very unlikely to go across the middle. It's probably going to go out or vertical. Who's your help vertical? The safety in the post. So pitch your tent, get outside, play here, and
Yeah,
stuff like
it's
that
just
shows up.
even in his not great reps, there's a morsel of like, hey, this guy's a good football player going on.
Exactly. Let's find what clip are we at? Oh yeah, this is I put good click and drive on a hitching off man. Love how he bumped the receiver to let him know. That's another thing. He's a mean guy. he, he's always bumping. Oh, he knocking over a tight end. Does that sound like fun?
Sounds like fun to me.
Where's the tight end? Uh, here. I don't even know what that is. By the way, this is a game that Sam Laporta had a big game, mainly because they didn't put Witherspoon on him. But like, what's Seattle's building coverage wise? Like in terms of their DB room, they have Julian Love, right, who Clint Hurt today has been speaking about as like some dude who they can play anywhere. They've got Tariq Woolen, who is just a complete like ridiculous athlete and technique wise blew me away with how quickly he took to what they were doing. Then they have Witherspoon, who in theory you can plug and play in a lot of spots. You have Jamal Adams, who is much better in covering than people give him credit for, and against tight ends especially, and then as a blitzing weapon can do a lot of things. You can move him around. Diggs has nickel background. Like their dime
Yeah.
package is looking disgusting if Adams can come back. Like
Yeah.
it's looking ridiculous. Like Kobe
Yeah.
Bryant was not the best in man, but maybe second year. I mean, Pete Carroll said that he can be one of the best nickels in the league to me in Germany. So
Yeah.
he had no reason to say that. I didn't say how good you think he can be. I asked him why they put so much on his plate. In terms of coverage assignments. So they've just got so many cover options.
Yeah.
You can stop the run.
Right.
Was that incomplete? Okay.
Yeah.
Impressive.
I mean, he forced a diving
Took away
throw.
the space, made it flatter. Oh, so this is a glimpse of ability to drive across the field. So here it's another rub concept. Oh no, that's the wrong play. Never mind. Top of the screen. I said this is a chair step deep crosser. He gets lost at the cut, but again, this is an example of understanding what route's coming from this kind of motion, using the safety help, and the way he squeezes this route. This body positioning is excellent because your body positioning here is just straight back like this. You are getting leaned into. You're not denying space. You're giving the receiver all of this room to work in. But because he continues to squeeze, look, this receiver has to push flat quicker. Means he declares his intentions more. And the route is leveraged. Now, the cut isn't great. But it's also not the best route, is it?
Yeah. I also think about.
I wonder if he thought his safety was going to nail down on this more aggressively as well.
Potentially, yeah.
Because that's how they played it in the past. But I think he's playing more like high corner, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think how he handles it's kind of a weirdly ran route though. I think how he handles the stem, because a lot of these routes are kind of lost.
It's a dog shit route, really, because he should surely when it should be one step and then go, right? Having 3 more steps upfield and then bent, it's just so long. Like,
well, it doesn't yeah. It doesn't fit with the timing in the backfield, does it?
No.
So when they're in cover 3 and they get those race routes or crossing routes from the number 1 outside corner, outside receiver, he should be able to handle that really well. Now Tariq Woolen will get better at that too. That was something that hurt him because when he was kind of like, even though this isn't like off, press bail, right?
Oh.
Woolen wasn't great in bail, like the side shuffle, feeling the inbreakers as much. I think Woolen will be. Devon will be really good at that, and Tariq will get better. But
Yeah. Here we go. Wide inside release. Now, Seattle would probably coach a slide, which seeing him be able to slide, so that's just push off your inside foot at 45-degree angle and gather with your other foot. So you are cutting off the route while also starting to move vertically. I think adding that to his game rather than just kind of this is sort of it, but it's more like a turn and run. I think that really unlock more to his game. But here, staying on the upfield, working to the low shoulder, just all over the route.
yeah,
And again, a slot rep, which
right,
also in the slot, you have to kind of know your route tree and know what the tendencies are because it's so difficult.
right.
Even
The
more so
two-way
than a
release.
corner.
Yeah.
And it's good fighting through the stiff arm. I think he got a face mask penalty, or maybe he did it.
Look how reactive he is. Yeah, coming off a would-be blocker to changing direction.
In-man coverage.
Because that running back is coming in hot too, and he's handling a running back. He's not handling a receiver. It's a running back.
Where's here we go in the slot again, and so this is what I'm saying: slot formation. So this is a slot formation. He would play in the slot on the number 2. Leverage into his help, the post safety. Like the divider he's basically just outside the hash. You've got post safety help here. It's to the field. You want to play outside leverage on it to squeeze it to your underneath and your deep.
Yep.
Here we go. I put here run off route on a deep play action, but excellent slide into the route, riding the hip pocket to the high corner. Oh yeah, similar thing. This flip in the through the phase where he flips and goes while riding with his hand is so nice. There's no room for, if that was it's a runoff route, but there's no room if that ball was going to be squeezed in.
The Michigan State game had some good games, or no, the Michigan game had some good examples of under center boot stuff, and him feeling out, like reading the backfield and knowing what was going to be a throwback and what was just going to be a regular boot, and him handling the routes accordingly. Like, is it going to be
a subtle hint?
Is what a subtle hint? No, we don't need to go to Michigan. I was just saying, like that reminded me of it.
But this is good enough patience unlocking his hip. See, he's thinking this is going to release through his core. But the ability to snatch with the outside arm after it's a very flat release, and lean into that cut. Nice. Like weight distribution wise, it's not ideal here. He gets to kind of walk it out outside release, shallow in. But he's all over that. Okay, clip 51 sounds like a good one. I think he gets a crossing route again. This time he's impressing the slot. Yeah, you can see there are better examples, but he has real recovery of speed over the middle because he also understands the angle he needs to go at.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get rid of this. So I'll try and find a good example. But Griff, is there any other thoughts you have as we sort of wrap this up?
I feel like we've covered every component. Off press, how the press translates to what they might ask him to do. Running and hitting, concept recognition, route recognition, all that stuff. I mean, we've shown examples of him playing the ball. I mean, nothing comes to mind really beyond that. My mind does go again. Competition concerns, but the Wyoming game is hilarious because he's just beating the crap out of the receivers the whole game. Like he makes his presence known within the opening drive almost every single game too, even if the ball doesn't come his way.
Yeah. Chat, do you have any questions? This is your opportunity to get them in. But if not, and it's that whole thing of like if you throw multiple routes at him or try and stress him, it can just do him in. Like it can just do the offense in. Like he if anything, it gives him more opportunity to, he's fine playing deep to short in his zone, but he just understands when the balls come into each route and he'll hit it or he'll pick it or he'll remove it playing deep to short. So yeah, Cameron says I'm excited. I mean, yeah, it is pretty exciting. Like at the time I was like, Seattle's been so good at drafting corners in later rounds and developing them to be serviceable, or even better, right? Like for instance, Byron Maxwell, he was more than serviceable in Seattle when they had a really good pass rush, and then he got paid, and he kind of dwindled out. Or even Shaquille Griffin had some really good stuff, and then kind of dwindled out. And that was a 3rd round pick. But this is beyond serviceable, and it's with Seattle's way of coaching corners. So, I mean, sky's the limit. And the fact that he's already making plays in OTAs, it's just pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And all of this, most of the stuff that were issues here. 1, he corrected later in the season, and 2 was more collegey. Like it was more stuff where it just doesn't translate to the pros. Like it just doesn't. And then if you're talking like the press technique, I think Seattle just lets him play in at the line of scrimmage a bit more aggressive, and tells him to mirror guys and not do the inch off. But the things which translate there is he wants to get hands on people. He wants to play physical. He'll just need to learn, and he's very patient. He'll just need to learn the kind of mirror aspect, which I think there's already elements of that in his game. And then he'll need to learn the like sliding out of stuff, which there are elements of that, but just a bit more. But like that should be simple for him.
Yeah.
And the fact that Pete Carroll's, they've supposedly already gone through that sort of stuff. Who do you think has a better career, Witherspoon or Woolen? Wow, Scott, that's a question. That is a question.
That's tough.
Don't know.
I think there's a safer answer right now. The other components of corner play, Woolen is still kind of raw, but there's no reason to think that he won't improve. Like I think he will improve. But Witherspoon has a higher floor, I think, even right now. Just aside from accounting for the general, like you got to adjust to rookie life, NFL life. But I mean, Witherspoon is coming out working with much more than Woolen is. But a testament to Woolen that he took to the technique so quickly and the pure cover skills translated so quickly. Like in that sense, he's kind of not raw, but it's the zone aspects and other aspects of football.
Yeah, what's really cool is the contrast between the two. Like Witherspoon has drive and burst and click and close stuff, but Woolen's obviously crazy. So what you end up getting is almost on certain routes, Woolen is kind of behind, like from a mental standpoint, but he's able to then recover and drive on stuff because he's just a crazy athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Witherspoon is already there because, and he's so they'll end up covering the route tightly when it comes out. But the ways they get there is going to be slightly different. And then the way they play it will be different because one of them's longer, one of them's smaller. You know, one of them hits harder in Witherspoon, one of them is a bigger frame. It's just going to be so cool. And Cameron Bowen asks, what do the Seahawks do if Trey Brown looks really good? Do they play Witherspoon in the slot some to get the 3 best DBs on the field? Well, that's the thing as well. The competition behind is going to be so interesting. And Camden asks about who plays inside. Is it Jamal Adams or Kobe Bryant, or Witherspoon? Again, they'll play matchups, but yeah, Pete Carroll did tell me that Kobe Bryant is going to be one of the best. He thinks he has the potential to be the best nickel in the league, one of the best nickels in the league last year. They won't sour on him. They'll let him have the opportunity to lose that job.
Let him grow. Yeah.
And Cameron said, by the way, my wife made me put my headphones on because she didn't want to hear the boring Seahawks talk. She doesn't know ball. Well,
those aren't mutually exclusive. It could be boring and she could know ball.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure lots of people find this boring. Anyway, on that note, thank you everyone for listening. Let us know if you like the format, what you would change. If you want, like, we could just do 10 plays where it's less of a conversation and more of just, this is really good. Here's why. But
right.
Yeah, just let us know what works, what you'd like to watch. If you like the video, subscribe to the podcast, search Seattle Overload. Thank you, Misfit. That's very kind. And follow Griffin at CMike Spin Move. Follow Seattle Overload at Seattle Overload. Follow me at Matty F. Brown. Check out Seahawks on Tape, where I'm going to have that article on the Seahawks defensive fronts. I'll have a Witherspoon video as well. And until that point, Griff has left me, so it's definitely time to end the show. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening.